Morning and welcome back. Welcome back to an episode of Who Am I? Who am I? I myself have been trying to find my own identity in all of this. What am I doing? Am I trying to make money? Well, no, not really. Uh, am I trying to get, am I trying to be popular? I actually see this whole thing more as an academic exercise, like a class, you know? But it's really me finding myself. Who am I? My thesis statement is that I believe that every issue that humanity faces, and I'm air quoting the word issue, um, comes from us not understanding who we are. And when we come to understand who we are, then that issue is no longer an issue, but rather we can use who we are to get past it and on to better things, a better life, a more perfect union, if you will. Who are we? Who are we? I think it's an excellent question. I think that within the uh, the many layers of the answer lies all of our solutions. Who are we? Who are we? We are amazing beings. I want to talk about the meaning of life, the object of the exercise, and I'm not going to preach about it in any way. We're just going to talk about the structure, form, the structure, the energies, the way that everything flows, the way things come together. Who am I? Who am I? And what are the laws of the universe? Actually, I find myself a lot of these shows. It's almost like Groundhog Day. You know, I drag myself out of bed and I come and I sit in front of my microphone and I look, think, well, what are the main points? What's the main deal here? What am I saying? And I go through the structure of the universe and I go through the structure of space-time, physics, and all that, just from this particular vantage point. We're talking about the new physics, the new understandings of how the universe is constructed and how it flows and how what are the rules about it. It's kind of like that, not just dry physics that you can use to determine the trajectory of the I don't know. I'm thinking about rockets and space and not just that. We're talking about the actual structure of the universe and we're talking about the structure of you, consciousness and the way the way things flow. Now, I never know whether or not I'm going to post the show that I create. I'm going to create the show, it's going to go into my archive. I have no idea whether I'm going to consider it fit for general consumption when I'm done with this. If I get too esoteric or if I leave too many unpicked up things in the road behind me, then I will not publish because I'll just be putting myself out there and I'll be looking crazy. But if there's good stuff, helpful stuff, someday I'm hoping my whole archive, somebody will be interested in it and go, yeah, this is really good stuff. This chick was interesting. You know what she was putting together? She was on it. She was on it. And the reason people should know that I'm on it is because if you get into this state, all of us have something special that we're trying to offer. Every single one of us. And this one is mine. So it's like this is mine. 8:29. So who am I? Who am I? And what would be helpful Because we are going to spend basically an hour riffing in the positive zone. We are in the flow of solutions. We're in the solution set for an hour, and we're just going to fly around, riff around, and see what happens. I have no idea or how this relates to physical reality in general. We're just going to stay in the positive zone. And in this place, from this position, there's a few things that you assume. And actually, in a general way, the things that I'm saying are true across the board.
Check road. You
Um,
up there?
just
Tie
in
up
a general
fast.
way, this pure
Philip's shouting
positive
orders started the teamster moving.
things like
The man was behind him,
I'm
near the
going to
top of the
assume
40-degree
in this
slope.
space that every
The
single
hillside was
thing that
layered with
has ever
fresh snow,
happened,
patterned in blazing white
even if
and
I'm
deep
talking
shadowed by
about
the
a
January
negative
sun
thing,
falling between the huge
ultimately,
trees.
every
The
single thing
sun
that
was
has ever
melting the snow's
happened
crust, just
is
enough to worsen the already treacherous
an
surface.
expression of
On its third
things are
day
always
in the
working out
roadless
for me.
mountains, the artillery
And if
train was
things are always
stretched out
working
for
out for
several
me,
miles.
whoever me
Each
I
descent of
am,
the rolling terrain had to
then
be
things are
negotiated
working
with
out for
special
us
care and proper
all the time.
distance
So
maintained
that's just
between
an
the
assumption.
sledges in
So
case
even
of
if we talk
accident.
about war,
Philip
that
was
we
about
don't want to
halfway to
keep
the
having
bottom of the
war,
hill, tramping beside the
ultimately,
sledge
the
bearing the
position
old
here
sow.
is things are
Below,
always
on
working out
level
for
ground,
us.
another
And
sledge
as
carrying two
humanity, we
cohorns
are
was about
moving
to
in the
start
positive
upward again.
direction. We are moving
F. Tate ran
towards
alongside
a
while the
state of
drivers
mind, a
lashed their
state of
balky
being
horses.
where we don't
Over his arm, Tate carried a number
we
of
don't
heavy drag
think of
chains,
war
which he'd
as
unhooked
being
from the runners as soon as the Cohorn sledge reached the bottom of
a
the steep hill.
necessity of life. We don't have to
Now
keep
the old
fighting with
sow
one
was
another
being
this way.
freighted
We
down that
really
same
don't.
hillside, and four
What's
check ropes
causing us to
fastened to
fight
trees
this
higher up
way
were proving
amongst
insufficient.
ourselves
One had
is
already frayed and
um,
popped, causing Philip to yell at the man near the
a
summit. The
competition for
teamster was
resources.
starting to string another rope around a
And
thick
that is
bowl,
getting more
but
intense.
slowly, too
But the
damn
problem
slowly.
is we
The
haven't
drag
cracked the
chains under the
code
sow's
on
sledge seemed to
how
be
to
having little
create more
effect. The
resources
sledge kept
with
sliding
source.
faster.
We
Foundering
could
in the
do that.
snow, the
We could
yoked
crack
oxen
that
felt the
code.
push.
That's a
Crankle,
crackable
their
code.
driver, didn't help matters
Now,
by
I know
screaming
from the
obscenities and whipping
um,
them frantically with a supple stick.
conventional standpoint,
The sledge lurched sideways to the left.
there's no such
Philip
solution in
jumped
sight. I'll
back
tell
to
you what
keep
the
his feet
conventional
from being
viewpoint
crushed by the
says,
runners.
and you see
Despite the
whether
chill
any of
air,
this
he was
seems
awash with
familiar or
sweat
whether
under
this
his filthy
feels like the
clothing.
paradigm we have been
Crankle, ease up with the
struggling
stick. They're
with
panicking
each
enough,
other and
Philip
amongst
bawled
ourselves
at
the
the
whole time.
farmer. Crankle threw him a
That it's
defiant look and kept
a world
flailing.
of competition.
The back end of the
Dog
sledge
eat
lurched again,
dog.
further left,
Kill or be
toward a
killed.
natural drop-off of
Me
about
against
20
you.
feet. If even
It's a
part of the
finite
sledge slipped
pie and a
over,
zero
oxen
sum
and
game.
all would
There's
go.
X number
The
of
motor might be
resources out
cracked
there. I
beyond
can
repair.
visualize
Hurry
them.
up
My
with the
mind
rope,
can see
Philip
all of
screamed,
the
hand
forests
cupped
and all
around
of
his beard-stubbled mouth.
the
The man higher up
ships
still seemed
full
to
of
be moving with
containers, full
maddening
of I know
slowness.
what all is
He was
out there.
just
It's a
starting
zero
to
sum
secure
game.
the end of the rope
And
that
we
led
are all
all the way
fighting
back
about
down to the
who
vehicle
gets
bearing the
what
sow.
amongst
6 ropes in
what's
all were
there.
lashed to
All the
staples on the bed
commodities
of the
being
sledge.
produced
One had
everywhere and
broken.
shipped
Only one
everywhere
more
and
was available,
controlled
trailing
by this
loose on the
country and that
hillside,
country and blah,
tracing a
blah, blah, blah,
snake
blah.
pattern in the
You're
snow.
thinking about it that way, maybe.
Tense, Philip
And you
watched the
think that
sledge
that's what
slide
the
again.
paradigm is.
Only a couple of
But
feet
that
this
really is
time.
not what the paradigm
He
is.
whipped his glass
Although
back up
I
to the
have
man
to
struggling
say,
with the rope.
the universe is
Why couldn't he
so
get it tied
beautifully
faster?
reflective. It really
One
is.
of
It's
the
going to
oxen
reflect
bellowed,
back to
a
you
terrifying sound that
pretty
echoed
much
through the mountain stillness.
to a certain
Philip
degree.
spun,
It will
saw
reflect
Krenkel
back to you
flogging the left-hand
whatever you
ox
are
down on
putting
both
out there to it.
forelegs. The rear of the sledge started
Now, the
another
difference
slide,
between
straight
putting
toward
out
the
what's
drop-off.
true and putting out what's
Just as
not
the man
true,
fastening the check
as
rope
in,
around the tree finished his last knot, the sledge's back
the
end swung
difference
all the way
is
left, pointing toward the drop. The newly tied
if
knots
you're
failed
if
to
you're
hold.
vibrating with
The
the way
rope
the universe
snapped,
actually is,
uncoiled from
what's
around the
actually
trunk,
true,
end
how it
whipping free.
actually works.
Another rope broke,
then the result
leaving
that you're
two
going to
in
get
place.
back is going to be
At that
way
precise
better,
instant,
way
Frankel's
easier, way more
maniacal beating
abundant.
of the oxen
Now,
achieved
it will play
results.
back anything. So
Disastrous
if
ones.
you are playing it like
The
a
left-hand
win-lose
ox
game,
lurched up
the
and lunged
universe is
ahead.
playing back
The
to
other
you
beast
as
felt the
though you
pull
are
and
correct.
responded in tandem.
Yes, win,
The
lose.
sledge was
There's
jerked
winners,
forward too
there's losers.
precipitously,
You are
no
correct.
longer in
And all
danger
the
of
people
slipping
playing
over
a
the drop,
win-lose game are
but given
getting
a
that
sudden
reflection
giant
back. And
yank
that's
that
why they
started it
believe
sliding
that the whole
straight
thing is
down the
win-lose
melted,
because they
slippery
see the
track.
winners, they see the
The
losers.
sledge picked up
I don't
speed,
want to be a loser,
spewing snow from the
you know?
runners despite the drag chains.
But the fact of the
Krenkel
matter
saw the
is
sledge
that if we
gathering momentum.
played this
His reason
as
deserted
a
him. Before
win-win,
Philip
we
could
might be
react, Krenkel
surprised.
dropped his stick,
We might be
jerked a hatchet
surprised
from his
that the
hide belt,
field will play like a
started chopping the
win-win.
traces.
And
Don't
then
release them,
instead of a
Krenkel,
field
Philip yelled,
glittered with
but the
the
frightened farmer paid no
bodies
attention.
of
He
losers,
hacked the last of the
you have
traces,
just winners
stretched out his
everywhere.
free
Winners,
hand,
winners,
and
winners. And
jerked the
the
pin
fact
connecting
and
the yoke
the
tree to
truth
the front of
is
the
that
sledge. The free
the better
oxen
we all
lunged to
do,
the
the
right,
better we all do,
off the
or we all do
dangerously
better when we all
melted
do
path.
better, or whatever those
An instant
expressions
later,
are.
the sledge left Philip and
We are
Krenkel
one
behind,
being.
then hurtled
And
by the oxen,
yes,
still gathering
when
speed.
when other human
Philip
beings do
reached
better,
Krenkel and knocked
all
him
human
down with
beings
one
do
mauling
better.
fist.
And the
His
reason
stinky
is
yellow
we are
animal.
one body.
Krenkel
You
snuffled,
are
on
me,
his
I am
knees
you,
and
your
trying to
neighbors,
stop
your
blood
unknown
leaking
self
from
made
his nose.
visible. There is
The
only one of
sledge
us
was a good way
here.
down the hill now,
And it
thundering
becomes
toward the bottom
especially
where
more
F.
obvious
Tate was just
as the
releasing the last
world
drag
gets
chain from the
smaller and the
cohort
human
carrier.
population gets
Tate
larger.
heard the rumbling,
Then you
turned his head.
realize, oh my
For a
goodness,
moment, sunlight
there
made
is
his bad
only
eye
one
glow like a
humanity
star.
upon the earth.
Time seemed to
And
suspend.
the
Philip was
idea
only
of
marginally
us
conscious of his
taking up
legs pumping
arms
through the
and
deep
fighting
snow.
one
He
another
shouted incoherent warnings.
and killing one
He
another
saw
in this
F. Tate
way is
frozen with
so
surprise in the patch of
obscene.
sunlit snow. F's
To
jaw
even
dropping at the sight of
ever
the juggernaut
consider it
hurtling
as
toward him.
part of the
The
solution
Virginian started to
seems
run.
wrong. Seems
The drag
wrong. That
chains
is
draped
not
over
what
his
you do.
arm fell to the ground.
You don't
Somehow
subtract
he tangled
anybody
his feet in
in
one of them.
order to
Thrashing,
fix
he
whatever
sprawled
problem
in the
you're
snow.
imagining.
The mortar
What we
sledge hit
need
the
to
bottom of
do
the
is we need
slope
to
and
understand
careened
who we
ahead.
are.
Tate
And
threw an arm up in front
the
of his face.
confluence
He
of
disappeared as the sledge ran over him and
who
slid
I
on past
am
the
and
cohort,
how the field
losing momentum on the
functions
flat.
is sort of
The
what
sledge's
this
front
show
end
is
rose
about.
at the bottom of the next
Who am
slope,
I?
the
Because I
hillside
believe that
soon
at
breaking its forward progress
this
completely.
leading edge,
In the snow behind,
this
something
discussion
grotesque and
is
loose-limbed
where
flopped.
sensibility
Philip
comes
kept running
together.
toward his
This is
friend.
where we
Then the
get to
Virginian
that
screamed.
state of
Philip's beard-matted face
rational
distorted. Other teamsters were rushing
not
to
just
Tate's
rational
side.
thinking, rational
Squinting
slash
in the
intuitive
sunlight,
thinking, where
Philip
your
whirled and
rational
ran
mind
back up the
and
hill in
your
a
intuitive
shambling gait.
mind are
Above
one.
him,
They aren't
Krenkel crouched defensively, chin
different from one
upraised.
another. They are the
The
same
defensive
mind.
posture crumpled the
And in
moment
actual
Philip came close
fact,
enough for the
the great
yellow-bearded
mind, the
farmer to
mind that
see his
includes the
almost
information that
bestial
the
face.
whole thing
Krenkel threw his
can only
hatchet
be
away,
carried
turned and
on
jumped
a
from the edge of the
vibration.
drop-off. At the bottom, he
And
struggled to
it
his
can
feet,
only be
flung himself on
it's
down the
only in the
slope,
positive.
vanishing
It's
into
not
a thick
that
stand of
vibration is a
pines.
positive vibration. There is no
Philip
such
retrieved
thing
the
as a
hatchet,
negative vibration.
raced for the drop.
Well, I mean,
A
there
voice got
is.
through
What
to
it
him then,
is the
one of the
difference
men from the
in
cohort
your
sledge. Leave him
rational
go, Ken.
mind's thought
Help
that
us
it
with
has
Tate. He's
chosen
still
and
alive.
what your
Philip
intuitive mind
hesitated.
is
The
thinking,
numbed hand
because they
holding
are
the
both
hatchet shook.
thinking all
In
the
the
time.
distance, the pathetic
And if
Frankel
you're
put more
feeling
ground
like
between
you're all
himself and the
alone, it's
caravan,
because you're off
a
thinking
scurrying
thoughts that are
figure
nowhere
appearing and
near what your
disappearing in
intuitive
sun and
mind
shadow.
is thinking.
The
Your
teamster
intuitive
at the
mind
bottom of
is
the hill
active
shouted
at
Philip's
all
name again.
times. Your
Making a
intuitive
guttural
mind
sound,
is your
he
inner
flung the
being.
hatchet down.
It's the same
With a
thing.
last
It's the
look at
same
the tiny
concept.
figure
And I love,
fleeing into the
there's a
snowy
quote out there.
fastness, he went
Einstein
to
did a
answer the
quote,
summons.
and he says,
He never saw Krenkel again.
the intuitive mind, this is,
7.
hopefully I get this exactly right, but if
Forward
it's
progress of the
kind of right,
artillery train
I'll settle.
stopped.
The
The
intuitive
sledge
mind
carrying the old
is a
sow had
sacred
survived
gift,
the runaway
and the
descent with
rational
no
mind
damage.
is a faithful
Nearby,
servant.
Philip and some of the
We
teamsters
have
erected a
created a
crude tent
society
from fresh-cut
that
branches and blankets. 10 minutes after the tent was
that
put up, Philip crawled out of it backwards and let
worships
the
the
end blanket
servant and
fall.
Is that right?
He blinked as his eyes
Venerates the
adjusted to
servant
the blaze
and
of the
has
snow.
forgotten the
The
gift.
blinking
It's
didn't clear
something
his
like
vision.
that. We pay only
A
attention to the
horseman was
rational mind,
struggling down the slope where the
and
sow's sledge had
do
come to
not
rest. Philip watched the horse slip
we do not
sideways,
give credence
falter,
to the
then
intuitive mind
gallop forward. A
because most
mountainous
people
figure of
haven't
Henry
lined
Knox
their
bouncing in the
minds up
saddle.
very well. You don't realize
Inside
you
the
are two
improvised tent,
selves.
there was a tormented
One of
moan.
you is your
Philip
intuitive
tried to
mind,
hide his
is
face by
your inner
pretending to
being,
wipe his
is
nose,
your
but the other
broader
teamsters
perspective,
weren't looking at him.
is the
They
now
studied the
I've been
treetops
thinking
or
about this.
gazed
I
at the
used to
churned
think of it
snow marked
smaller.
by F. Tate's
Your inner
blood,
being
or they simply
is,
stared at
if
their
not
bag-wrapped boots. Not a man said a word.
God,
The
is
silence
at
was broken
least
only by the
your
occasional whisper of the
conduit
wind,
to God,
the
your
frozen creak
connection
of a
to
bough,
your
the soft
God
thudding of the
aspect,
hoofs in the snow
something like
as
that, some
Knox
kind of
swung out of the
words like
saddle.
that.
I got your message and sent ahead for a
Some
doctor from
people,
Westfield, he said
they
to Philip. He
religions have a
started
hard
toward
time
the
with
tent
this too.
entrance.
It
Philip grabbed
is
his
the
arm.
concept of
I wouldn't, Henry. I must see what attention
the
he needs.
Holy Spirit,
From here down,
the Holy
Philip
Ghost,
swallowed,
versus
touching
the
his own
concept
waist.
of God
No amount of attention is
Himself
going to help.
or
Knox
the
turned white as
Almighty
the
itself.
snowfields. My God,
I think
is
all
he
of this
awake?
goes to the fact
Forcing
that
back
we
Philip
are
nodded.
two distinct
We dosed him with some whiskey. That stopped the
scales
worst of his
of
raving.
flowing
I even
information.
talked to him a minute or so.
One
He
is the
he knows how
scale that's
badly he's
coming
been
to
hurt.
my physical
He
mind.
wants his rifle with him.
It's me
Philip's
in
stiff
my
hand
physical
lifted in
mind,
a sad,
in my
ironic
individual
gesture at the
life,
mortar
in my
sledge,
individual self,
fastened to the bed
and
by
it's
ropes tied to
it's
pins.
me in
F. Tate's
specificity
Kentucky
here
rifle
on my
gleamed
space
blue
on the
through a
grid
patchy
as
dusting
I
of
relate to the
snow.
world around me.
I'll fetch it if it'll be any
That's
comfort to him,
one
Knox said.
scale of
It'll take the
flowing
doctor a while to
information to
trick
me.
you, so
And
anything
that
that
creates
he stopped as
one
Philip shook his head.
vortex of
F asked
attraction.
me to write his
That
family
is
later, Henry.
responsible
He
for
wants his
one of my
rifle loaded.
vortices of attraction. I am
Knox
too.
swayed.
The
Philip
other
had never
one
seen him
is
look so
source.
drained.
It's my source
He glanced
self.
around
It's
the
my
circle of York State
me
drivers,
flowing with
face
everything
after
around
Weatherby,
me and my
face,
intuitive
as if
mind
hoping one of the men would
knowing
speak.
who I am and how
Philip
I'm
said to him,
flowing with all of that.
I'd say the
There's
decision's
that
yours, Henry.
me too.
No,
That's another
no,
point of
it's his
attraction. This
still.
is the one that
Knox
Abraham says
swiped at
all
his
the
face.
time. This is the
There is a
one
moral
that
question.
is
Then you tell him that, Henry. You look
amassing
at what's left of
cooperative
him and tell him
components
that.
to every
I won't.
desire that you could possibly have
Silence.
at
The
all
wind mourned
times
through the
is
pines.
already
A
flowing
branch
with this,
broke
that
loudly
your
and
cooperative
fell.
components
Get the
to
rifle,
all
will
of
you
your
please, Philip?
desires
I'll take
are
it in to
queued
him.
up.
Unless you
What you need to
we did our
do is
talking.
have
You'll probably have to
a
use
little
more whiskey to
more
wake him.
information about
He
how the
turned,
world
trudged to the
functions,
mortar sledge, dimly
but
aware of shouted
amass
curses and
that
snapping whips
information
beyond
about
the crest
how
of the
that the
slope
world
down
functions
which the old
with
sow had
faith.
plunged. A new sledge
Don't
struggling for the
be,
summit.
I mean,
Maybe the
you're
messengers sent
looking
in
for
both directions from
solutions.
the scene of
You're
the
looking
accident
for the
had
bright
missed one of
side
the
of things.
vehicles
You're looking
laboring
for
through the
where
woods.
it's flowing and
The
where it's
noise
going
almost
and
seemed
how
a
it's
blasphemy
working,
as Philip
not
laboriously untied the
how it's
frozen
not
ropes,
working.
opened the
You're looking
ammunition
for the
box
is,
lashed
not the
down
is
beside the
not.
rifle, loaded the
And you're
piece,
just looking
and
at it
carried
with
it back to
faith,
Henry
knowing
Knox.
that you are part of the
Another
whole
groan sounded
thing
from inside the
that's
tent.
been flowing
Then
for
F.
all
Tate cried
time. It
someone's
will
name.
never
A
leave you
woman's, Philip
behind.
thought.
Never,
Knox
it
bent to
can't
enter,
leave you
carrying the rifle.
behind. It's
Philip walked
holographic.
away.
You are holographic.
About
Your
5 minutes
consciousness
later,
is
leaning his
holographic.
forearm on the
You are
cold
part of
iron
the
of the
whole
giant
thing.
mortar,
I am part of the
Philip
whole
heard
thing.
the
There's
shot,
only one of us here.
hideously
If
loud,
we could learn to
echoing and
add
re-echoing
our
through the
information
tree-clad ridges and
together
valleys.
and
He stared at the
imagine a
mortar's
bigger
maw as if he
picture
could
that we're
destroy
all
it with a
producing,
single glance.
that every one of
He
us is
started when
adding
someone
to, and
touched him.
all of us in our own way
Knox.
has access
The
to,
drivers were
if we'd
shuffling
get
away
on
from
that
the tent,
jag,
the end
we could
blanket
fix all
flapped
of
in
our
the wind.
problems pretty quick.
Drifting clouds started to
But you've
obscure the
kind of
sun.
got to get to your
Whorls of white powder
unconditional
danced on the
space. Get to the
hillsides.
place where you
At
aren't
the
so
western
worried
summit,
about,
the sledge coming up had
who's got
stopped.
what,
The
who's got
teamsters
my
peered at
stuff,
the peculiar scene
and how
below.
am I going to get it
The wind
back from
sang
you
again,
because you have
a
nothing.
low, pained
Got to get
sound.
away from that, at least for a
I think we should
space
bury
in
him
your
here, Philip.
mind.
I think so.
Then you go
The
back to
rifle's to be
realizing that
yours,
there is
he
kind
told
of
me.
a competitive
We'll
thing
dig a
going on
proper
here
place and I'll say
too.
a few words
There
and
is it's
his
a
voice broke.
competition sort of out in the
And then we'll
field, a
get these
gentle
goddamn guns
competition
going again.
that keeps us all sharp,
Yes, all right, Philip
that
said,
makes
staring at nothing.
Sorry.
Knox left him standing in a cloud of wind-driven
I'm getting so
snow.
excited. That keeps us all sharp, that
8.
keeps us all
The
honed.
arrival of the
You know, this,
artillery in the village of Westfield
I hear it
produced
ringing,
almost a carnival atmosphere.
ringing. Hello,
Townsfolk
testing.
followed the
Oh.
sledges on both sides, and
That
small
keeps us
boys
all
couldn't be kept from jumping aboard to
honed
touch the marvelous
and
cold solidity
it's
of the
sort of a
great
game
weapons.
we're playing on the
The
grid. The
Westfield citizens
competition
offered
part
the
of it
weary drivers
is
huge quantities of
superficial.
food and
It's
drink.
actually not
The men
what's
accepted
really
eagerly,
going on.
nearly
It's more
starved
like
after their passage
the
across the
spirit of
worst
the
of the
old
mountains.
Greek
In return for the
Olympics.
hospitality, the
The
people of
spirit of it
Westfield
was
begged
not
Henry Knox to show
competition to
off
the
the
death,
artillery
you
by
know,
firing the
and
most spectacular piece of all,
there were
the Old
winners
Sow.
and then the ground
The
littered
exhausted
with
Knox
losers that
obliged. Philip
it
made
was
himself
more, the
scarce during the
spirit was more
demonstration, taking refuge in the
striving
local tap room.
together.
But he still heard the boom of the
And
mortar
in
and
doing
the
so,
subsequent
we
cheers,
make us
applause, and
all
shouted
stronger,
insults to King George.
you know,
Philip
so that we
immediately
are a
helped himself to
strong
another
people,
ale. Like
so that we
everyone
are a
else, the
proud people,
landlord was
so that we can
outside
be that
enjoying
kind
the
of jag, you
celebration.
know. But and so there's a gentle
9.
competition that's going on at the surface,
Anne?
but at the
Annie,
deepest,
I'm back.
deeper level,
Yelling at the top of his
or
voice,
deeper,
Philip climbed
deepest,
the
I
stairs of
don't
the
know,
house in
did I have to say
Watertown on
both?
the night of January 26th. The
We're
preceding
actually all
day,
in this
the
together.
artillery train had arrived
And
in
the whole
Framingham, its
biofield
journey
actually
complete for
is
all
all in
practical
this
purposes.
together. And
Philip
the
had ridden
idea
ahead with
is
Knox,
all of
who
us
gave him
need
leave to
to
go see his family.
support all of us
Knox
because
galloped
every
on
one
to
of
the
us
Vassal
is a
house to report
thread
to General
in the
Washington.
fabric of life. All of
Filthy
us are,
and
and we
almost
can
drained of
all,
strength, Philip shouted
human
his wife's
beings
name
can be
again as he
so
reached the landing.
beneficial
He shifted F. Tate's
to
Kentucky
the
rifle to
issues
his
that
left
we
hand,
find
raised
ourselves
his other
in on
hand to
planet
knock,
Earth.
and stopped,
If we would just get
paralyzed
our
by
head
what he
turned
saw
in the right
hanging on the door.
direction, we are
A
magnificent
poorly made
gardeners.
wreath of
We are
black crape.
amazing gardeners. And
Fears
if
for
we
Anne
would
and
get
little
our
Abraham flashed
intuitive
through his mind.
gardening soul
He stood motionless,
in
aware
concert
of
with,
doors opening on the lower floor,
uh,
heads popping out. The
our
whole house
rational
had been
self,
turned
if we
into a
would
honeycomb of
understand
emergency
who
apartments.
we
He was
are
certain his
here
wife
to
or his
garden
child had died in
Eden,
his
and
absence.
somebody
The
put
door
us
opened.
here. Now, I
Philip
used to
almost
object to
wept at the
that being
sight of
some sort of
Anne's fatigued face.
supernatural
Her
characterization of,
chestnut hair was disordered,
mystical
her dress
God in some
stained
sort
and
of
wrinkled.
supernatural
Philip
way
couldn't
involving
speak. He
angels
was
and,
afraid to ask the obvious
what
question.
that virgin birth could
The
very well
baby's
have
well,
been
Anne said
is
quietly.
some kind of
He's sleeping now.
in
Then it's your
vitro,
father.
or things
Oh,
that we can
Annie.
do now.
Suddenly she was
We can
tight
make
against him,
babies
unable to
without
hold back her
sex.
sobs. He
You
let the
know that.
valuable rifle fall where it would,
I
heedless of
think
how he
that
was
now I don't
dirtying
know
her with his filthy
exactly
coat.
how
He
the
hugged her,
Bible relates
buried
to
his
the
bearded,
actual
unwashed face in
truth
the
about
warmth of
what
her
has
hair.
actually happened
She
here on
cried
planet
loudly
Earth.
for a minute or so,
But I'm not going to
then fought to get
disagree with
herself under control.
the religious
Philip
people about
retrieved his
their
rifle,
faith.
guided her
Their
gently into the
faith is
dim-lit
something
parlor,
on the
shut
order
out
of,
the curious
it's
faces at
all
the bottom
right.
of the stairs.
We're in the hands of
When, Annie?
God and this and
He
that and the
whispered.
other. And,
The 4th
I
of
could
January.
tackle this from
All during December, the illness grew worse. You know how
angles,
it's all but
trying to
impossible to
sort
find a
out
doctor. Mr.
what's
Revere
true
finally
here,
located a retired, half-senile old fellow
what we can
and
know
practically
about it,
kidnapped him from
and
Roxbury.
a
He
structural framework
diagnosed
to begin
pleurisy,
with.
just as I'd
And
done
then from
myself
that
weeks before.
position, let the
And of
specialists
course,
go
he couldn't
out
prescribe
and
anything
find the
except the usual
details.
emetics
Once
and
we're all in
laxatives, and,
alignment, in general alignment
well, when he
about what it
hauled
is
out
we're
this
looking at,
positively filthy,
what's the
bleeding
point of
basin
what
and a
we're looking at?
fleeing with every last
What's the
blade
object of
caked
the
with rust,
exercise?
I paid him
Who
and
am
thanked
I?
him and
Who
told
am
him
I
to
as an
leave.
individual?
I knew it
Who
was
are
hopeless.
we as a
Anne's
species?
face was
What are we
white.
trying to do
Philip
here?
understood why.
I'll tell you what we
Pleurisy was
should
the
be
name of
trying
a
to
dreaded
do.
disease of the
We should
lungs
be
and
trying to
chest.
understand
More
ourselves,
common
and
in
we
bad
should be
weather,
trying to
it took a
find
high
our
toll of
point
those who
of
contracted it.
joyful
Anne looked around in a
sustainability.
strange fashion,
We should be
almost as if
loving each
seeking her
other
father
and
in the gloomy
ourselves
corners. Then,
because it is through our
Papa was
love of
fortunate in one way.
ourselves and
He
one
went
another
peacefully in
that
his
we
sleep.
care for ourselves
But
and
dear
each
God,
other,
Philip, at the same
that
time, there
our
was no word
desires
from you.
are fulfilled.
Nothing
It's
except rumors from
where our
Cambridge
love
that Henry Knox
is
was still on the
that is
road,
the secret
having
sauce.
difficulties.
It's the
Accidents.
secret sauce
Her
of
agony
everything.
poured forth in
The
one
religions are
strident
kind of
cry.
trying to be onto
I
it,
was
but they
afraid
get
you were
all
going to die
conditional and
too.
weird.
Again he
And
held her close. touched her,
history
stroked her shoulders,
and
trying to soothe
philosophy
away the remembered
and
horror.
positive and negative
All at
emotion and
once he heard the
people's
impatient
feelings
gurgling
of
of his son
unworthiness
waiting in the bedroom.
and then
Even as
competition
he
and shit. It
listened, the
all gets
gurgling
mixed
turned
up in
to a
a
yell.
weird soup.
He felt a shameful,
And
completely
then we
inappropriate
don't know
urge to whoop. This time
what
Anne
to
broke
do.
the embrace,
We
dabbing at
go
her
by
cheeks.
our own individual
I'm sorry I
traditions
took on
because what else
so.
can you
Really.
do?
The worst has
But we
passed.
should come
I
to
just
a
broke down.
more
You
a
had to bury him yourself.
more
Yes, I
generalized,
arranged it here in the local cemetery. Ben
peaceful,
needs help.
standard
There was no telling when we could get back to
kind of
Boston.
recognition
Philip,
of, in
at
general,
Christmas,
who we
Papa
are.
asked me to say goodbye to you.
Who
I'm
are
sure
we?
he already knew what was going to happen.
How do we
She started
function?
away, bothered by the
What is
baby's
the
cry.
meaning of being a
Worst feeling.
human being
And
on
you
planet
too.
Earth right
Why, you
now?
must have lost 20 pounds.
As
She fought to hold a
madness
wan smile in place. That was so
is at
like her,
every
he
turn.
thought, filled with a wordless
I'm not going
tenderness that
to whip
somehow
up your
eradicated his
outrage, and I'm
exhaustion,
not going to
his
get you
hunger,
all fired
the
up in
unpleasantly
madness.
cold, smoky
I'm
stench of
actually
his
going to
clothing.
try to soothe
There's
your
one happy circumstance
angst
in all the
about it
grief,
because
Anne
I
added.
actually think things are
Papa
working
left
out
what money he has to both of
way
us.
better than we think
And,
they are.
oh, wait,
We
Abraham,
need to
wait,
quit
I'm coming,
focusing
she
on the
exclaimed as the
aspects that are
squalling
not
grew louder.
working out
Papa said that if we
and
could keep from
focus for a
spending all
minute
the
on
money to
what
live,
is.
we should use it to
Things are
start your
always
printing
working out
business
for
one
me.
day.
And so I'm looking
He
for
thought well of
positive
you, Philip. He
aspects
really did.
because what I'm
He wanted you
actually
to
trying to
know.
do is put together
It
a
should have been
picture that
heartening
is
news,
nothing
something
but
to bank
positive
away for the
aspects, and you
future.
will find
But he was again struck with grave
that
doubts
there are
about that
plenty of
future.
positive
He
aspects.
thought of Dr. Warren
And things
perishing
are
in the
getting better,
redoubt,
and every one
of
of us
F. Tate
does
buried in the
have
wintry
an inner
wastes of
being,
western Massachusetts, so
our
far
own
from the southern
inner
mountains
being,
from which he marched.
shooting off
And
rockets
he
of
thought of Abraham
desire
Ware,
to
who
improvement.
perhaps would never have
And
contracted
then
his fatal
whenever
illness if
we
he'd
aren't
been warm
paying
and comfortable
attention,
in his home on Launder Street,
and
Boston.
whenever we
Who would be the next to be
accidentally
scythed down?
go positive
When
and
Philip
relax for
speculated
a
about the
minute,
prospects for
some of
his
that good
infant
stuff
son,
gets
the
through.
very act seemed
But
macabre
there is
futility.
a cacophony
Conceived in the joy of
of
passion,
human
born
thought
under a mantle of hope and
screaming.
love from his parents. What did the child have to look
And it's
forward
that
to,
very
save
screaming
growing up in a
that is
country shattered by
stopping you
rebellion?
from realizing
The struggle could
how good
conceivably
you've
drag
got
on
it,
for years.
how
Wars
good
often did in
we've
Europe.
got it. We've got it
That
better than we
America
have
could win her
ever
fight
had it
seemed to him
before.
chancy
We
at
just
best.
have to
That
now
she could win quickly was virtually
get into
unthinkable.
alignment.
There was no
Get
purpose
into
in dwelling on
alignment
the
with
boy's
our
future
inner being, with
or
our
the
positive
inheritance
self,
either.
with the whole
Dead
field.
men had no use for
Understand how we
handbills and
work.
calling cards.
Understand
What
what it
printing
is we're
equipment could
actually
you buy in a
driving
grave?
for and striving for.
Possessed by pessimism, Philip felt a
That
sudden,
joyful
unexpected need to
sustainability, that
seize the small
loving
pleasures of the moment.
relationship with
The feel of
all
his
of the
wife's
rest of
warm
our
shoulder
body,
beneath his arm.
which is
And
all
something
of
else.
humanity.
I want to see my
Now, I
son.
know it's very
An hour
hard to
later,
do
Anne
that
served a supper of
when
cold
your
lamb, fresh
focus is
cheese,
both
stale bread,
specific
and hot
and
tea.
negative.
Though the fare was less than luxurious, there was plenty of it.
I can't
Yet despite the poor
cozy up
rations
to
he'd
the
endured on the
specific,
300-mile journey,
you know,
he didn't feel like eating.
heinous,
All at once,
murderous,
out of
you
his
know,
need,
whatever
fear,
outlier
uncertainty,
either. I
he
can't
reached for
either.
Anne's hand.
And so don't
She
start
looked at
there.
him and
Don't
understood.
start with
At
trying
long
to
last, a soft
love
smile eased a
the
little of the
most
fatigue in her eyes.
unlovable
She
about
was as
us.
uncertain and hungry as he.
Go pull back to the general.
Rising, she
Who
blew out
are
the lamp in
we?
the corner of the parlor where they had sat down for their meal. Gently, lovingly, she took his other hand in hers.
and
I should use a razor first, he said with an
in
awkward
actual
little laugh.
fact, human
Scrape off
beings are
this bristle.
marvelous.
It could do
I both
damage to a lady's cheek.
absolutely adore
Don't
human
worry,
beings.
she
We're
said.
so
Just
wonderful.
come.
We're divine
She led him to the door.
creatures full of
In their large, high
music
bed,
and
their son sleeping
kindness
nearby
and
and cooing occasionally,
creativity and
she was warm and eager.
the depth
Arms
of
tight
our,
around his neck,
oh,
she
we
wept
are
when he
just
first kissed
so
her.
wonderful.
The
We
touching,
look
the
into the
caressing,
eyes
and then the
without
rhythm of their
resistance
bodies
of
seemed to drive back some of
a
the
baby
world's
who's
lowering
happy, who's just
darkness.
kind of gurgling and boobling
But
and whatnot.
afterward, he couldn't
Oh,
sleep.
my gosh.
He
Or a
stole out to the
puppy or a
parlor,
kitten
lit a
or a
lamp, and
oh,
spent more than 2 hours
to get
composing
it,
one short letter to experience
connect to
Tate's life
source
in
and then look
Albemarle
around you.
County, Virginia.
And the
Even if it
world
had cost
just will
every
seem
last
so
shilling
different,
of
so
Abraham
different.
Ware's money to have it
Who are
posted and
we? Who
delivered,
are we?
he would have paid.
And what is the object of, what is the whole point? What's the meaning of our lives?
Chapter 6.
Somebody
The seed
created
time of
us
Continental Union.
and put us here on planet Earth. I think what they
Gentlemen,
did, now,
said Dr.
I
Benjamin
hear that we
Franklin,
have
the
alien
tankard in his
DNA in
pudgy
us.
hand
What I
shimmering in the
do
light
know
from
that
the
we
hearth.
have, and
I give
I'm
you
going
our
to
honored guest.
come back
By
to this
birth, an
scene.
Englishman. By choice, an American.
I'm going to
By
try to
disposition and God-given
see where
talent,
it
a
is.
journalist of the first rank.
Okay,
In the manner of most authors who delve into
I do know
politics in these
this.
treacherous times,
Um,
he has chosen to see his pamphlet
so
brought into the
this
world
is,
anonymously. But
huh,
to judge from the reception accorded it
it
since
doesn't quite look
publication
right, does
one
it?
short week ago, I predict its distinguished
Mhm.
creator will not long be able to conceal his identity. Certainly he may be named and honored by those gathered here. To a man, I believe we hold his inspired prose and irrefutable logic
That's
in the utmost
better, I
regard.
think.
Franklin
I
turned
actually
toward the
think
rather
that it's
seedy
way
looking
too big.
guest, a man with a large nose, a rough complexion, luminous sad eyes, and the
It's
general air of
because
one who, near age 40,
the way this
recognized
slide
his own
is.
failure
Well,
in life.
hopefully that looks all right.
Tonight, the
This is
guest
the,
smiled.
this is
Dr. Franklin saluted him with the tankard. I give you Mr.
a
Payne. Stick ferrules
representation
hammered
of
the
our
floor of the private
neocortex, a
dining
model of it.
room of
You see our
Philadelphia's city
neocortex
tavern.
and then
Hear,
our
hear, hear!
previous
Those among the 20
brain
selected guests who
layers,
lacked
the
canes made
mammalian
noise with
brain, and
their
all of the
boots.
things that
Gradually, the hammering and
um,
stomping faded, replaced by
controls,
a hubbub of conversation.
and then
In the
beyond that,
fireplace, two halves of a
before
heavy
that, the
log
lizard
fell,
brain and all the
scattering
things that it
sparks.
did and still
Franklin
does.
sat down
You
beside
didn't
the guest of
turn
honor.
in
While
your
serving as
previous
commercial
equipment.
agent
You
for
just layered
various
on top
colonies
of
in
it.
England,
You are
Franklin
all
had
the things
apparently
that
met
you
Mr.
used to be.
Payne
You
and
are a
induced
lizard
him to
over
come
there.
to
You are
America after
a
Payne
regular
suffered
mammal like
assorted
everybody else. You
disasters
have
in
these
customs
identities
collecting,
within you.
corset manufacturing,
But
and
that
marriage.
neocortex layer, it's
There were
very
calls for
important.
a speech.
It makes us
Applause
human.
greeted the
It's
suggestion.
it's
Thomas Paine rose,
the aspect
flushing.
of us that makes us
Gentlemen, thank
different
you most
than
sincerely,
we
but
can get
I've prepared
past
no
the knee
remarks.
jerk that we
I
have
only wished
to
to
our
enjoy dinner and
environment
fellowship with the
and
men I
think
consider
about
the
the
most
bigger picture.
enlightened of all those holding sessions at the State
Now,
House.
the really important,
More applause, cane
I
thumping,
was going to,
boot stamping, mingled with
that
jokes and laughter.
neocortex
At his
layer
table near the
comes
fire,
from, or
Judson Fletcher was
76% of the
hellishly
volume of
warm.
this, and I wish I
He
had the
was starting
slide
to
that said
sweat
the
out all the
76%.
dark
This one
brown
says
ale he'd swilled
8%,
down,
approximately
but he
8%
joined
of the DNA in
enthusiastically
all
in
of
the uproar.
ourselves, in all of our bodies,
Certainly it was a select
is
group from the
coming
Congress
from
gathered at the
human
city
chromosome
tavern
number
this
2,
rainy evening in
which
late
is a
January.
fused chromosome.
A select group of
And look
patriots,
at this. We
or a
conclude that
select
human
group of the
chromosome number 2
insane,
is the relic of an
depending on your
ancient
side
DNA
of the political
fusion
fence.
of two ancestral
Judson
chromosomes.
had
Look at what the
gravitated to the group
article
because Donald had
actually
been part of it.
says. So you
Around
can
him
see
sat
from this
politicians whose names were
slide that
known
I
in every
put up
one of the
of Greg
colonies.
Braden, so you can see his little face
Franklin,
over there in the
the
corner,
portly, high-voiced
in the
little
upper right.
Braintree
It
lawyer
says, this
John
is from the
Adams,
Proceedings of the
seated at
National
Payne's
Academy of
left.
Sciences,
From
Volume
Virginia, the
88,
Lee
page
brothers,
da, da, da,
and
da, da,
gangling,
published in
red-haired
October of
Tom Jefferson,
1991.
who
Actually, it turns
occupied
out
a
there were
chair
two
just
volumes
across the
published in
table from
October,
Judson.
one on the 1st and one on the
Once in a while,
15th. This
Judson
one
was
came
troubled
from
by
the
the
15th.
realization that these
I
refined,
went and looked
well-educated men
this up
were determined to push the colonies
using
straight
Greg's
down one
information, and
and
here it
only one
is.
perilous
As a matter
road.
of fact, there it
John
is.
Adams jumped to
This
his
is the
feet.
article he's
Then I
referring
will
to,
speak
The
for you,
Origin of
Mr.
Human
Payne.
Chromosome number 2, an
The
ancestral
Massachusetts
telomere to
lawyer
telomere
always
fusion.
struck
And
Judson as self-important. The guest
here's the
looked
whole
relieved, though.
abstract, and here we
Adams went
conclude,
on.
look at this, what it
To
actually
paraphrase
says.
Mr. Jefferson
We
there, we
conclude
as a
that,
Congress and as a people want neither
so the
inducement
locus
nor
cloned in
power to declare
cosmids
and assert a separation
C8.1
from
and
Great Britain. It
C29b.
is the
So
will
what they're,
alone which is
which is
wanting,
what this whole
or
article
we
has
have
been
the will
about,
to gallop the other
about
way, Wilson
sequencing
style,
this
said Francis
chromosome
Lightfoot
and
Lee,
deciding what the heck
referring
it
to
is
the
I'm looking at.
Pennsylvania sponsor of a
We
congressional
conclude that it's
resolution
the
of
relic
January
of an
9th,
ancient
passed
telomere
by
to
a
telomere
coalition of
fusion and
conscientious
marks the point
conservatives
at which
and
two
the frankly
ancestral
faint-hearted.
ape
According to
chromosomes.
Judson's
Greg
somewhat
didn't use
bleary
that word,
recollection,
but
the
these people
resolution
did.
declared
Two
that the colonies
ancestral
had
ape
no
chromosomes
design
fused to
to
give
set
rise to
themselves up
human
as an
chromosome number
independent
2.
nation.
This is just a little
Consequently, the
obscure
mention of
article
Wilson's name produced
in
a few hisses,
a
including a loud
peer-reviewed
one from Judson.
um,
Tom
science journal
Jefferson, relaxed and
published over
pensive with his long legs stretched out
33
toward the
years ago.
flames, gave Judson a speculative look, then
And
glanced away.
it's
Judson
saying we've
belched.
sequenced this out,
Wonder what
and
that was all about.
we're not saying how it got
Adams was
fused.
continuing. But with the
They're not
publication
saying,
of Mr.
but
Paine's
it's
pamphlet,
very
a great step
curious.
forward has
Very,
been
very
taken toward
curious
solidifying
indeed.
public thought. We owe him a debt beyond our collective power to repay. Once more,
I
the
believe that
diners
we were
noisily
genetically
expressed their
modified
approval as the
and that
Braintree
this has
lawyers
caused
sat
us to
down,
be who we are.
pleased.
It's how come we're kind of
Judson had to
weird
admit that
on the
Adams, who
planet.
was perhaps
No
the
other
most
creature is
determined
like us.
exponent of
No
independence in
other
the
creature
Congress,
can get
hadn't
outside of our
exaggerated. In the
moment,
days
the
since the
way
release of
outside of
Paine's
the now,
tract of
the
some
way we
50
can get.
pages and
And
14,000
we
words,
can
it
take
had
long
become a
trips into
publishing
the
phenomenon.
past, and we can
People literally fought
project
their
all
way into
kinds
Robert
of
Bell's small shop
future.
in
We
3rd
can
Street to purchase
create
copies,
things that are
either the version
um,
in a deluxe binding
way more
or the one in
artificial
less expensive
than
paper covers.
other creatures.
Judson had
They
finally
go
gotten hold of one of
incremental.
the
They don't
latter
take the
just this
leaps, the
afternoon.
wild,
So far, he
crazy
hadn't done more than examine the
conceptual
title
leaps
page,
that we do.
but he
And
knew a
I
little
believe
about the
that it's
book's
because
history.
somebody
Aiken,
twiddled with
the
us.
local
They
printer for
tweaked
whom
us.
Thomas Paine did
They
menial shop work, had deemed
modified
his employees' material
our
too
brain
inflammatory to
structure. They
print.
gave us
But
a
help and advice from
neocortex.
Franklin
What would
and
the
the
harm be? Give
ultra-radical
them the
Samuel
ability to
Adams of
think,
Boston,
you know,
not present
give them
tonight.
that rational
Even
mind.
radicals like his
What
own cousin
what could
John considered
possibly go
him a
wrong?
mite too radical,
Well,
and
when
led to
that
the connection
brain
with
is
Bell.
not connected
But
to the
Bell, who took the
frequencies
risk
of
of bringing
source
out the
all
first
around,
edition,
it
wasn't
can be
enjoying exclusive
incredibly
benefits
destructive,
or profits from his venture.
incredibly
All
cruel,
over Philadelphia and in
horribly.
other cities as well, other presses were churning
Let's
out
just go back to
copies.
the word
The
destructive,
eager public didn't
because
care
that's
whether an
probably the
edition
biggest
was
problem that
pirated or not.
humanity has
They
all
just
over the
wanted to read
planet.
it.
We are
So
more
did Judson.
destructive than we are
He was anxious to
constructive,
get
and
away from
where
this
we
stultifying,
construct,
if
we're out of
augustly
alignment, and
populated
those
room,
constructions
return to his
being out
rented
of
quarters in
alignment don't
Windmill Street
satisfy the
near the river,
needs, and
and dive into
Shiva,
Paine's pamphlet.
Loki, and demonic
Scraping
energy
chairs and the
rises in the
opening of the
field
doors
around
to
us,
admit
and
serving
people
girls
in
to
their
clean up the
anger and
litter of plates,
dissatisfaction tear it
cups,
all
and
back
glasses
down, kill one
indicated he
another,
might
go
be
back to
getting his
war.
opportunity.
We
He
need to
judged the hour to
understand
be
who we
past 9.
are
He hoped
and
Alice
stop
wouldn't choose
this
to spend the night
dreadful
with him.
cycle
Her whims were
so that
unpredictable,
we can live
dictated
in peace
largely
and
by how much
harmony
claret she
amongst
consumed.
ourselves on this
She
planet.
was
We
a
need to
damned
know
attractive wench, of
where
course,
we came
a
from.
welcome diversion
We
despite
need to
certain
know, now,
puzzling,
in my
even alarming
country,
quirks of
we need to
personality,
know
and
what's
a
good
history that was a
and
total enigma.
true and
But he didn't want
amazing and
Alice tonight.
blessed
He was
about
eager to go to
being an
bed with no
American,
companion save
and
Mr.
how
Paine's
that
common
fits
sense.
in with the
Reaching for his
amazing
hat and stick as the gathering broke
blessedness
up,
of
he was
being a
startled by a
Canadian and
hand on
being
his
a
sleeve.
Mexican and being
Judson, a boy for
an
you.
Englishman and being a
Tom
Scot
Jefferson stood
and
well
being
over 6 feet. He
a
met his
Frank,
fellow
a
Virginian's
Frenchie.
smile with a calm,
The
almost
blessed,
remote
amazing
expression.
wonderfulness of
Judson's
all of
smile
us.
disappeared. He had
Now,
gotten
I
on
know that
exceptionally
sounds
well with Tom Jefferson ever
platitudinous,
since
and it
arriving in
sounds like
Philadelphia in
Pollyanna,
mid-December. The other members of the
and
Virginia delegation,
way
the
too,
Lees, Ben
you
Harrison,
know, sugar
Jefferson's
plum
law
and
tutor, George Wythe,
bubblegum, and
Braxton, Nelson,
my late
all were
husband would have
cordial
called it
enough.
pink and
But
bubblegum.
Jefferson was closer to Judson's own age than
But the
the rest
fact
of
of the
them.
matter
Just a little
is,
over 30,
I
Judson
think
guessed.
that there is a
Not
solution
much for
for
oratory, but
humanity
reputed to be the best
in
phrase
sight.
turner in Congress.
It's not on the
Jefferson still
table yet.
spoke with
It's
a
not
quiet directness that demanded a
in
listener's attention.
play
His
yet,
laugh, when he was in the
but
mood,
it is
could roar.
queuing up.
Tonight he obviously wasn't in
And
the mood,
look to
as
it,
Judson had
because if
noticed
we
a while
have
ago
a
when the
prayer,
wealthy young
this is
man
what
gave
it
him
is.
that odd look.
It is
By all
understanding
means,
a brand
Judson
new
said with a
source
slight
of
bow.
energy.
Shall we go
And
to the
that brand
public
new
room?
source of
I'd drink
energy
another ale before
is
braving
not
that rain. Jefferson shook his
a
head. Don't believe enough been
centralized
drunk for one night. Instantly,
source
Judson
of
tightened up.
energy. Although
The
it could
polite
be, I
reply
mean,
had delivered its
there
barb,
could be
as he was
centralized,
sure Jefferson intended.
but there's a problem.
Annoyed, Judson
Centralized
picked up a
energy
tankard left by
creates
someone else.
centralized
He
power.
gulped the warm, flat ale
And then you
remaining in
have
the bottle.
as long as
That defiance
humanity, if
out of the
humanity
way,
knew who
he
they
wiped his
were,
lips with his
that
lace-trimmed
would be all
cuff and
right. But
smiled
we don't know
engagingly.
who we are, and we
Then let's
are
talk
not
here, Tom.
filling
What do
everyone's
you want to
needs, and we are
discuss?
not
He
caring for each
suspected he
other.
knew.
And
Jefferson
as
didn't
we
avoid
do not
Judson's
care for
gaze.
one another, the very
You, Judson.
powerful negative
The smile
demons
stayed in
within us
place. A
that are
fascinating
born
subject.
from
Go
the
on.
rage we
As you
feel
know, we've welcomed your
when our
presence and your
children
liberal
starve
spirit in the Congress.
or
In
are
that
blown
sphere,
up
you're as much a
in
credit to
front of
Virginia
us.
as your brother.
We
Judson's
can't keep
smile
doing this,
soured
people. We
then.
cannot keep,
Shall we skip
and
the
I'm not referring
preliminaries?
to anything
I smell
specific,
that compliment for what
We
it
are
is,
we
a
are a
preamble to something less
magnificent
flattering.
species. We
Jefferson's
really,
lips
really
thinned a
are.
moment.
We are a magnificent
Very well,
species. Oh,
he
what is
said.
this new source of
We
energy
have received word of a
that
rather
I
distressing
alluded
exhibition of
to without?
patriotism at the
I
keg the other
believe
evening.
that we are on the
It
verge
wasn't an
of
exhibition of
understanding
patriotism, it was
source
a brawl.
energy
Judson
itself.
cheerfully exhibited the bruises
But
and
in order
healing
to
scrapes on the
understand
back of his right
source
hand.
energy,
I just went in the
we are
place for a
going to
drink.
have to
I had no idea it was
collectively
the refuge of every
understand
young Tory in town.
ourselves.
I had two or
There's a
three, and
reason
then a couple
why
of
a hundred
sweet-smelling
years
chaps
ago
remarked that German Georgie
we
would
did
soon
not
make the Congress
immediately
regret it
turn
ever
to source
convened
energy when it's
by signing his
possible
treaties with the
that the
Landgraves who
inklings
are to
that
supply
there
him with
is such a
German
thing.
mercenaries.
But we don't want source
Judson
energy
shrugged.
weapons in the
One thing
hands of
led to the next.
people
When
like
I got
Vladimir
done with them,
Putin
two of the pretty
or
young
even
gentlemen
Donald
looked less
Trump.
pretty than when they first
We
opened
didn't
their
want them in the
mouths.
hands of Hitler. We
The
don't
lanky
want them in the
Virginian's
hands of
nod
people
was
who don't
Dewar.
understand who we
So it
are.
was reported.
We don't want
I
them in the
only want
hands
to
of
remind
people
you,
who
Judson,
imagine we are
friend to
playing
friend,
an us versus
that we're
them
engaged in
paradigm game.
deliberations of the most
We are all in
serious
this
nature.
together,
Our
people.
every act will be scrutinized
This
for
is a
years to come.
win-win. A
Election. This is
win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
election. Judson, calm
Why
down.
are we
No,
playing it
by
like a
God, I won't
win-lose?
listen to. Yes,
It's going to be a
Jefferson said,
lose-lose.
so softly that Judson caught his breath.
I could talk
Your
about
private
that some
life is
more.
your
Looks like
affair.
I'm
But
41 minutes in and doing
publicly what?
fine.
We ask that you do nothing further to bring criticism to
Let's
our cause.
see.
To ease the
What do I
situation, he
want to circle
smiled a
back
quick,
around
glowing
and
smile.
illuminate?
I don't doubt that in
You may
certain
be new
yet
to
to
the
be written
show.
histories we're damned
Uh,
beyond redemption as it is.
if
Jefferson seemed
indeed
to
anybody
relax
is
then,
listening at
the
all, I'm not going
stiffness
to go
going
rough.
out of his shoulders.
I am just going
But
to
his clear
broadcast.
eyes
Whether
watched, awaiting
anybody
a
watches me or
response.
not, I decided
Judson
is
bridled his temper with
almost
difficulty.
none of my business.
You keep
Although at the
saying
end
we,
I will go
Tom.
look.
You're not
I will
speaking
go look, but
personally
I
then?
won't look during the show.
Not entirely. For the delegation. And some others.
And then
Let's just say I was requested to pass the
hopefully
message
my
along.
friend
I didn't
Indigo will
relish
come
doing it,
back. I will
if that
find
wasn't
her again.
obvious. But I
Um,
agreed because,
I
in
appreciated
principle,
her.
the
She's like
gentleman who
my
asked me
one
to do it was
regular.
right.
Well, no, I have some other
Cheeks
regular
livid,
local ones
Judson blurted.
that
Name the gentleman.
catch my
Judson,
my
there's no point. Name him.
videos as opposed to my
Jefferson
live
sighed.
cast.
Mr. Hancock,
I'm just
with the
working on this for
concurrence of Mr.
myself,
John Adams.
getting this clear,
Hancock, that
clear, clear,
pompous
clear, clear,
dandy. Judson was
regardless of
sputtering,
what I
but his
see
anger
around
cooled
me,
almost at
whether
once. The
anybody
handsome and
around
extremely
me is
rich
looking
Boston
at this
merchant,
or not.
formerly the chief financier
It's
of
going to put me in a
patriot
funny
activities
position
in
because I'm going to be
Massachusetts,
kind of out of
was the
step
duly
with
chosen president of the Congress. This was no
where
mere
my
slap on the wrist by a
immediate
nonentity.
neighborhood
For a
of the
blink of
field
time,
is. I'm going to
Tom
be ahead,
Jefferson's lean face seemed to be replaced by
and
that of
I'm going to
Angus
have to live
Fletcher.
with that.
Around the private dining
If
room,
I am all
shadows
about
sprang up as the serving girls
solutions
snuffed
that my
candles.
neighbors have
All the
not
other men had
even
gone.
started
Bitter
considering.
rain struck the window
See, the
glass.
problem is
In a more temperate
I
voice,
spent a
Judson
lot of the
asked,
80s
You say John
feeling
Adams also
really
joined in the
bad,
request? You must
really
understand
bad
why, Judson. But we're
about what was
undertaking here in
happening to my
Philadelphia will be
planet.
considered so heinous in some quarters of the world.
I had a
Our
lot of
personal
misery
motives and
during
behavior
the
must be
80s, which
above reproach.
no
In
wonder
other
it
words, we
went
can
kind
drink
of
and
rocky
curse
for
and
me,
whore as much as
you
we
know,
like behind
because
closed
I did
doors,
spend quite
just
a
so
bit of
long as
time
the public
feeling
face
bad.
is
And in my
hypocritically
feeling bad,
spotless.
I was out of alignment
Jefferson
with
looked
my
upset.
own
If that's the
impulses
way
and
you
my
care to
own,
phrase it, yes.
so I've made
That's
some
the only way I care to
questionable
phrase it.
choices.
Jefferson stifled a sharp reply.
I don't know what
Then,
that was. I
Judson,
made some
the
questionable
central
choices
argument
about
makes sense
things.
if you'll just reflect on it a while.
And
I'll reflect on it when I'm having a drink somewhere else. He
But
turned
the
and
things I
stormed
felt
out,
bad about were
leaving
things like
Jefferson in the
that was when I
shadows by the
discovered
dying
vivisection.
fire, a red-edged
Horrible,
figure,
horrible
vaguely
practice
accusing.
underpinning
All he
the
could think of as he
legality
rushed from the city
and
tavern
the
was that he had once more been found
educational
wanting.
structure of
2.
our
Winter
and
rain slicked the
the
brick streets
pharmaceutical,
and gathered in
the
wind-rippled
legal
pools
structure,
that
and
reflected
our
the
medical
buttered glow of
education system
ornate street
underpins
lamps
all of that.
designed, people
At
said,
the
by
time, it was
Dr.
a
Franklin
$7
personally.
billion industry. That was
Muffled
back
in
in the
his cape,
80s. I have
Jackson
no
headed for
idea whether
Windmill
this
Street,
industry is gone.
cursing.
In
What
parts of
minute
me
he
doesn't
cursed
want to know.
Jefferson,
I don't want to go
deputized
look
by
that direction
Hancock and
any
Adams
more
to
than I want to go
chastise him.
investigate war
The next
crimes.
minute he cursed
I
himself
just want to pull
for
back to
again
the
failing to
general
live up
and
to what was
explain
expected of him,
what the F
whatever the
is
hell that
happening.
was.
From a
Jefferson's
general
warning
standpoint,
couldn't be
this is the
ignored.
problem.
Though still
And you get
young, the
lined up
red-haired Virginian had already
generally in
made a
alignment,
considerable
and
name
now
for
from that
himself because
position
of
go
his grasp of
specialized.
diverse fields of
But,
learning,
but,
from the natural
well,
sciences
anyway,
to the law. That Hancock had assigned him the
vivisection, that
task
was
of
one.
speaking to Jackson
Also, that
was
was
proof
the
of his
decade
rising status.
where
And
our
once he cooled
farms,
down a little, Jackson
our
had to
small
admit that
farms
Jefferson's
all
argument
over
was
the
probably
country,
correct.
which were a
The
collection
Congress
of
was
small
engaged in
farms
momentous and
making
difficult work. The
a
faction to which Jefferson and Judson
a
belonged saw
collective
independence as
distribution
the
system
last
for
available
food and
option
stuff,
in the face of the
where all the
king's
small farms
continuous
started falling
refusal
to
to
big ag.
protect American liberties.
And we had
But
like
time and
farm
again,
aid. You
Judson
remember
had
that
heard
one?
John
That was to
Adams
help
state
small
that
farmers
although
hold
he
on to their
considered
farms because the
independence a
way the
cause with
economic
high moral
system and
purpose, the
the whole
idea
thing
lacked
was
support among ordinary folk in the colonies.
the
If it were
reason
noised
I think
about
that
that
this
members
has
of the
happened,
independence
the
group were
positive
thugs
reason, I mean,
who
there's all
bloodied
kinds,
the
you can
noses of
talk about
Tories in
negative
public
reasons all day
taverns,
long.
the
There's
legitimacy of
lots
the
of negative
cause.
reasons for negative things happening. But if you want to look at positive reasons, because I believe that everything that humanity does until we understand who we are is all in service of us understanding who we are. As long as we don't understand who we are, then every motion that we do is in service of finding out who we are. So the reason that we did that is because we need to understand that we are a superorganism. And then from that superorganism position, oh, we are a superorganism. Holy crap, look at us. Well, you can just see it. There is a big um, monstrosity superorganism aspect about us, and that is our big Agnes and our big, whatever. You can see us. It's all us. It's all us. There's no us and them. It's all us, and it's all now. And when you start fostering that perspective, the clear view of what you're looking at starts coming into view. Clear view starts coming into view. That's actually probably poorly said, but the true image starts coalescing in the pool of your mind's consciousness. You have a template in your consciousness capable of holding a really big picture, because you are two scaling flows of information. You are your specific one at your specific level, and then you are the whole one at the allness level. You are both of these. And that whole one at the allness level, that's your intuitive mind, people. That's the one you should follow your intuitive mind and learn how to tap into that intuition, because she's the one who is holographically connected to the whole rest of the field of information. She's connected to the whole field of information and can help you guide your way. You are born with guidance. This is the true message of people in the churches. Really, now they might be saying some weird shit like, we're the only one that's true, so come and join us and forget about those, kill those other ones, or, it gets crazy. some of the messages coming out of the churches. But the real message coming out of the church is things like, you were born with guidance, and we are connected as an allness. Both of those messages are very clear. Every time you see a new church being built, don't think to yourself, there's another bunch of ignoramuses or, some kind of quackpot, especially as you laugh at the different names they come up with. The Church of the Living Allness. Actually, that's a good one. I like that one. The Church of the Living Allness. Maybe I'll start a church. I don't know. Uh, what they should be telling you is we are connected and we're never going to get away from that. And they're never going to stop building churches. And they're going to be thinking every wacky, from left to right, from up to down, and all around in circles kinds of thoughts, superstitious nonsense, until and unless we get a handle on a standard view of ourselves collectively. Who are we? And what are we doing? I'll tell you who we are. We are, who are we? There's only one of us here. We are all in this together. There is no us and them. I can tell you that. We all do better when we all do better. We're living in a potential win-win paradigm that if we would play it that way, then all of humanity could win, could joyfully win. I used to be so resistant. I was resistant to population. I was resistant to babies. I was resistant to anybody getting married and having children. I did not want to get married and have children because there were too many damn children in the world, and I didn't specifically want to raise them, so I shouldn't be having children, you know? Well, I got knocked up. And then it turned out in some ways to be the most profound experience of my life for sure. And it keeps coming back at me in good and bad ways. I care about people outside of myself, very close to myself. That's a scary, dangerous, but then, it's all about love. It's all about love. And because I care about them, I see things in their lives and in the meaning of us that I would have been coldly detached from had I not. So everything is always working out for me. But all of this is serving to help us understand who we are and what we're all about in our lives here on planet Earth. We're trying to get along. Can't we all just, in the immortal words of Rodney King, can't we all just get along? We need to. We need to get along, and we need to understand that the systems that we put into place around, the systems that our transportation systems, our communication systems, our housing systems, our food distribution systems, our food production systems, all of our systems are all in place to serve all of us, and not just the children of the rich. And you don't want it to be just the children of the rich, because say if you are the rich and it's your children, that's all well and fine, but these systems that you're creating supposedly could be lasting for 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 years. And now whose children? Now it's like, who cares if it's your grandchild, whatever. Now you've put into place systems that are wildly, where you have some people that are cared for, pampered to an obscene level, and other people that are neglected to an obscene level. We need to really rethink this. Who are we? Who are we? And I actually believe that a deep dive into it comes up with some really amazing, amazing things. And as we move towards a few, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I believe that in the next couple of years, you're going to start hearing more about source energy, 0 point energy, and the kinds of energy systems that can pull, uh, that can run on their own, that can plug into source itself. But in order to plug into source itself, you have to understand source itself because they don't want to let just any warring monster plug into infinite energy, and then you turn Hitler's got a hold of it and he zaps the rest of the world with it and enslaves the rest of the world with source energy. Well, you don't want that. And so God didn't make the universe that way. The universe is not made that way. In order to wield source energy, you've got to be wiser. You've got to understand your connection to the allness. It's like a prerequisite because it is your connection to the allness that's causing that 0 point energy. It's not a source over there that is the fountain is over there and you go tap into it and then, whatever. No, the source is everywhere because the source of it is all of it interacting with all of it. All of the zapping of the individual plonks across the field, passing their information, their energetic and positional information back and forth with the field constantly touching back with itself, feeling itself, hearing itself. That's what's happening. That's what source energy is. It's everything interacting with everything all the time, passing its information both across small scales in local fields and large scales across the whole field at the turn of every plonk. That's what's happening. That's what our universe is. That's who you are. That's who we are. And when we get to the place where we fully understand who we are and what the field is, we'll be able to tap into it for our free, clean energy. We'll be able to communicate with ourselves and each other across subspace frequencies. Um, and I'm not talking about outward technology. I'm almost talking about telepathic technology as we start to use synchronicity to run our society instead of, the allocation of specific bank accounts that says that this is yours and that is theirs. And blah, 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 blah. There's got to be a better system than this. Or we need to have a system that doesn't leave anybody out. Now, um, you don't want to just dissolve monetary stuff because that's keeping track of a currency that if you disengage that, there's a lot of information that would be lost. The whole field would kind of turn to mush. So you can't really do that. But once source energy, just imagine this. Increasingly, our economy is backed by what you could call a petrodollar, an increment of energy that runs technology somewhere, that runs a gasoline engine or makes a boat go, or a factory or a light switch or whatever. That the energy that it takes to run what we've got going on is a large part of the economy. And it's a large part of how the financial system is working. Now, when this is going to transition to free, clean energy, and we're going to be plugging our technology directly into the field. And so, the real, with a capital R, the real items that you need, the real technology that you need is the technology itself, not the energy to run it. So, all of the energy companies, they're going to be the ones that have an issue. Although they also could be the ones that have the expertise that would transition us. But there's so many. Oh, Oh, I could tell you what forces I think that are in the way. Who are we? Well, so I'm almost to an hour, and I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna think about how I want to close this for the day. I do have so much hope. I have nothing but optimism for our future. I uh, I can see where we're going. I just don't know how long it's going to take us to get there because there's a whole lot of conditional reality that people have got to make their way through before they get to the realization of, oh, that's who we are and that's where we're going. Oh, I get it. And all of these things have just, all of these wars have just served to inform us so deeply how important it is that we love one another, that peace on earth, goodwill towards men. We are all in this together, and there is no us and them. So much more important that we understand these concepts. They are all of these troubles are driving us towards a recognition of what the problem is. It's that we're out of alignment, that we don't understand our own configuration, and we don't understand these energy fields of information that we are, how they work, and how to appropriately flow ourselves forward into the loving, beautiful, fulfilled, and connected future that we are actually moving towards. I have lots of hope for it. The free, clean energy is really going to help this whole, it's going to be a shot of energy right straight into the veins of the metabolism of humanity. Now, that's all well and true. That's why I think it's really important that we know who we are, because otherwise we're just going to have more and more energy to destroy ourselves more quickly. But one of the biggest things we're doing to destroy ourselves is the way that we are using fossil fuels. And that is no longer going to be a thing. The whole future is just so different than what we have been experiencing up to this point. I can hardly wait for it. I am anxious to be, I'm pleased to be a herald, one of the heralds of this is what's coming. I don't know how much darkness and resistance and crap we got to go through to get here, but I know this is where we're going. And with that, I will leave you. I'm going to go check the chat room, but not until after I've signed off. I wish you well. Please do. I need some. I need some really good. Like Jerry Springer's was, take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves and each other, which is such an ironic goodbye line for a show like the Jerry Springer Show. The last thing they were doing was taking care of themselves or each other. But just remember, we are all in this together. There is no us and them. I cannot do it without you. You cannot do it without me. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And until tomorrow, as always, may the source be with you.